Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the Silencing Podcast. Today, I'm with my man Mike. Mike, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast today, brother.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So, tell the audience a little bit about yourself, what we're doing here, and kind of how like just so we can kind of get a feel of you, and then we can get started and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started in the industry back in right around the year 2000, just beforehand. And as like so many people in IT, right? First level help desk was the start, and then worked my way into third party IT. Started out as a printer technician, and then over the next 4 or 5 years, worked my way up to managing all of our field technicians for the company that was the largest in the metro area. And then I was coached by one of our clients to run IT for a what I like to call super regional retail company. I'm trying to give as much specifics as I can without necessarily identifying anything directly. And then after some pretty impressive growth over the years, that company sold to a multi-billion-dollar national company. And I went back on the market and led for a couple of years an IT department of 1 to 2. And now I work in the financial industry, leading a team of 3. And in almost every situation, a large part of what I walked into was a small time mom and pop style IT department without many policies, procedures, and I try and turn it into a larger, more modern organization with the ability to actually document issues as they arise, projects, and write down procedures, institutional knowledge, etc., that basically were always existed only in somebody's head and could be often lost whenever that individual no longer worked for the organization. So I kind of specialize and enjoy working where I'm taking something that's pretty base level as far as the IT department and infrastructure and build it into something that's leading in its size and field.
I see. I see. Okay. So, from your perspective in the financial space, what are the common, issues that you feel like companies are facing that people need to be more aware of?
It's always security, security, security in the financial industry, right? There's government regulation that you have to abide by. However, just like anything else, government, um, when you're talking about the fast changing world of IT, they're going to be generations or years behind the curve. For instance, in today's world, the government still mandates, quote, encryption, unquote, when you're communicating via email somebody's financial information, even as minimal as an account number. But in today we don't send email via clear text anymore, right? Everything is pretty much encrypted, but that doesn't mean that the government regulations have changed to represent that. And that's definitely been one of the discussions that we've had in a recent industry team session was talking about that kind of thing where yeah the bad actors are getting better at what they do, but at the same time the technology to secure your data or your infrastructure is getting better, but the government's requirements don't reflect either side of that effectively.
I see, I see. And what's your biggest piece of advice for somebody that's kind of trying to get into the industry? They want to kind of make moves and build their name up. What should they be doing, and how can they kind of work their way into the space?
That's a great question. My biggest recommendation is decide what you want to do as early as you can. A lot of people go into school or early jobs with the only overarching idea of I want to work in IT. I enjoy computers and I want to work in IT. But that is very, very unspecific in what is becoming day over day a much more diversified field with a career's worth of knowledge for any one of 100 different aspects of the information technology space. And you really only make your name in the industry or become a really valued individual when you can show a particular expertise that is above and beyond the average expertise out there. And now, for me personally, I'm a generalist both by nature and by personal choice. I I want to know what I can about every different aspect of it. But that's actually a positive when you're talking about getting into the admin side more so than necessarily the tech specific side, right? So if you want to lead IT people, you need to have more generalized knowledge of everything. But when you want to be a tech and you don't necessarily want to manage people, which I see a lot of in our industry, you're going to have to figure out what part of IT uh, really excites you and focus on learning that. Because in the end, like any other piece of employment or work, what you do day in and day out, if you're not excited by it and you don't enjoy it, you're not going to ever be as good as somebody who is. So find that part that sparks that excitement in you personally, and then focus on becoming the world's biggest expert in exactly that.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And then like in terms of how about when it comes to leveraging technologies and tools like AI these days, like how do you see that impacting working professionals in the cybersecurity space?
Well, it's specifically in the cybersecurity space. I think that there's just like so many other technologies that have come along over the decades, that AI is a huge buzzword that even the CEOs have heard about. And so you're going to have to address it. You're going to have to know it. And you're probably going to have to explain, I think, kind of the limitations, but also what can balloon into astronomical costs of it. But specifically in the cybersecurity space, I think that really where you're going to see AI become incredibly useful is going to be looking for or monitoring things like logs, current activities, looking to try and find out standard, normal day to day activities and looking for those anomalies, right? Anomaly identification is a huge aspect that, you know, up until AI technology has kind of been a little weak on, but now we can get better at it. But at the same time, it's still relatively new to to even me, right? And so I don't know what its limitations are gonna be, but I fear that just like, everybody was going to be using Citrix and nobody was going to have a desktop workstation anymore of the 2000s, you're going to have some people try and jump into it with both feet without looking where they're going to land and spend a whole lot of money to come out with a worse solution. And so I think a lot more early analysis of what it can and more specifically what it can't do to help in cybersecurity is going to be important before trying to actually utilize it.
I see. I see. Mike, and then so like you've been in the space for how many years now?
About 25.
Very cool. So, like, just my final question here that I always like to wrap up the podcast with, if you were to look back 25 years from today, like, what's the best piece of advice that you wish you had received at that time that maybe could have, fastened the process or maybe lessen the type of things that you had to go through to learn what you know today?
Humble. Always, there is a fine line between confidence in your abilities and arrogance in your abilities. And the the strongest people that seem to be able to grow the best is both being and working in an environment where everybody understands that nobody knows everything. I've got employees that haven't had an IT job in the industry at all until now. that doesn't mean there's nothing I can learn from them. And if you're not learning something new every day, what's the point?
Yeah, no, true. I love it. I love it. Mike, where can people find you if they want to look you up?
I keep a minimal online presence, um, but I am on LinkedIn under Mike Bilderback. Know you, but yeah, that's about the best way to find me in a professional manner.
Okay, awesome, sweet. Well, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast here today. And for everybody that's listening, if you guys enjoyed, please remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more content. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. All right. Thank you.